Hey everyone, it is Tasty Taste from Blood of Kittens, and in this week's tournaments we're going to talk some Tau and Necrons Rising right after this. Perhaps. Quick intro! Hello and welcome back to the week that was in Warhammer 40k tournaments, where we speed through some winning lists from the previous weekend. Last weekend saw 9 events with at least 5 rounds and 28 players with 3 major events. The competitive Warhammer 40k meta continues, with 12 factions grabbing a podium and no one faction with more than 4 spots. With that, let's take a sample look at some of the lists that stood out from the 9 tournaments over the last weekend. Starting with the largest event, the Albs GT, and 200 players, first place winner David Gaylard's Tyranids went 7-0. David's list didn't shy away from what made Tyranids lists in the past dominate, focusing on warriors and 2 harpies. The list shows that even with all the point increases, a good general can still win with this army. David had to beat Iron Warriors, Tau, Aeldari, Chaos Knights, Bloody Rose Sisters, more Chaos Knights, and finally beating Meta Necrons. Moving to the Goonhammer US Open, we had 38 players and Derek Apache surprised Death Guard taking first place. Death Guard performing well isn't that surprising, but what it was the use of Mortarion to do it. Rarely do we see the Demon Prince lists grab podiums because of how easy it is to neutralize them, but not in this case. Derek's road to 5-1 had him face Ravenwing, Tau, Chaos Knights, Emperor's Children, Chaos Space Marines, Tyranids, and then finally losing to Tau, but still grabbed first thanks to points. At the second major event from the weekend, we have the Denver 40k Fight Club August Major, and Marshall Peterson grabbing first place with his unbeatable Necrons. Marshall continued not only winning, but he also scored max points in every game. Marshall's list used 2 blocks of 10-man Lich Guard to hold the line, while his Scorpec Destroyer units ground down his opponents. Marshall went 6-0 by crushing Imperial Knights, Custodes, Emperor's Children, Aeldari, Imperial Knights again, and finally Orks. On to the 30-player War for the Forge GT, and Thomas the Tau Ogden grabbing another first-place podium. Thomas, never shying away from his Crisis Suit spam, continued his warpath by using 15 of them in this particular list. But he was also helped by the latest hotness of 2 Sunshark bombers. Thomas's path to first had him go through Imperial Knights, Sisters of Battle, Blood Angels, Aeldari, and finally Thousand Suns. To the Grand Onslaught number 4, a 53-player event, we have Robert Hawkins' Orks grabbing 3rd place. This is really a fun Ork list because it shies away from taking gas and instead goes full blood axes and tons of beast snaggers. The idea of this list looks pretty simple. Just spam the board and rack up points, hoping you can hold out long enough to win regardless of how many Orks have to die. Robert went 4-1 at dealing with Chaos Knights, then he lost to Creations of Bile, he beat Aeldari, Space Wolves, and lastly, Necrons. Heading all the way to Colombia in the 36-player Bogota Grand Tournament, we have Marcelo G. Lara Vega taking first place with Dark Angels. Marcelo's list didn't play around, going all Terminators all the time, feeling almost 40 of them. This list dares an opponent to roll above average to wound because otherwise you're just not going to move these blocks of death. Marcelo went 5-0 by going through Grey Knights, Imperial Knights, Tyranids, Harlequins, and then Death Guard. Traveling to the Great White North, we have the Killing Fields of Istvan number 3 and 30 players, with Riley Tremblay getting first place with his Sisters of Battle. Riley's list used all the great things about this army by spamming Repentia and using tons of flying nuns, making it for very little surprise that their army grabbed the crown. Riley went 5-0 by defeating Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, Chaos Demons, Orks, and finally Harlequins. Now to the Great Plains in the Iowa Open, another major event with almost 60 players, and James Keeling 2nd place Aeldari. The list had a little bit of everything, and with that, lots of flexibility. Support platforms to deal with heavy armor, aspect warriors for close combat, and even including the rarely seen Shroud Runners for God knows what. James went 5-0 and only lost first place by points. He faced an Aeldari mirror match, Necrons, Tyranids, Death Guard, and finally beat Imperial Guard. Last, we have the St. Albs GT and 31 players, led by Lewis Fitzsimmons, first place Chaos Space Marines. Lewis lists an example of what seems to be a trend of Creations of Bile armies doing very well. Thanks to a good faction-specific secondary and Abaddon covering up any mistakes, this list really used a lot of punch-in-your-face characters to keep any opponent on their back foot. Lewis went 6-0 against Sisters of Battle, Thousand Suns, Admech, Ravenwing, and finally beat Blood Angels. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thanks for watching. Still have no sign of the next meta shakeup, with GW having no reason to make many adjustments. As always, don't forget to see the rest of the top 3 lists in detail by clicking on the links in the description below. And as always, if you like this content, please leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell. Thanks again.